The Education Channel and the Naples Alliance for Children are pleased to present a special TV program designed to offer strategies for effective parenting. The show features child development experts and it spotlights important topics parents may be dealing with. Now, here's Myra Spairo.
Welcome as Naples Alliance for Children presents a half hour of information on issues that face our family and their children. In these past few weeks, I've been reading in the paper constantly, almost every day it seems, on guns interrupting and killing and interrupting the lives of families and children. Tomorrow, is this going to still happen? Are we still going to be reading those headlines? Are they just expected or not? If something has to be done about it, unless this is going to continue. And today we start by addressing an issue of guns in Collier County and beyond. And I have a very knowledgeable presenter today, Jim Dillman. He is the Collier County Sheriff's Office detective and with the FBI task force. He's an agent with the FBI task force. Welcome, Jim.
Good morning.
So
Thank
great
you.
having you here. And we've divided the program into two parts. The first part will just address guns. Who gets them? Why do they get them? The second half, which is the most important, I feel, is going to be what we can do to keep our families and children safe. Jim, would you just tell me exactly what is your job, just so we know, you don't have to give a big background, but just what is your job with the Sheriff's Office?
My primary job, I'm a detective with the Collier Sheriff's Office assigned to the Homeland Security Division. My actual work is at the FBI Violent Crime Task Force in Fort Myers. And that's where I work every day, is out of the FBI in Fort Myers. The FBI Violent Crime Task Force, we address everything from bank robberies, armored car robberies, street gangs, outlaw motorcycle gangs, fugitives. We do a little bit of everything.
And just because it's up in Lee County, you are still looking at Collier County?
Yes, our area of responsibility goes from actually Bradenton through Sarasota down around to the Miami-Dade and Broward County line. So it's a wide area of responsibility.
And I can understand that what happens in Lee County or what happens in Collier County affects the whole area.
It certainly does.
Because when you hear something going on, it's always all over. Now let's just go with firearms, because that's what we're talking about, guns. And just what are the reasons that someone would want to have a firearm?
Well, Myra, there's several reasons. Some of them are recreational shooting, competition shooting. There's a lot of three-gun shooting, pistol, shotgun, rifle competitions out there. Hunters, of course, people that want to go hunting. Protection and for themselves and protection for their families. Gun collecting. A lot of folks collect weapons, whether it's new weapons or whether it's antique weapons, but gun collecting is a huge thing. And also people just like to exercise their constitutional rights by being gun owners.
And what would you say, the majority of people, why do they have guns in the house?
The majority of people, I would say, is for protection, for protection for themselves and also for their families.
And what types of guns?
Statistic-wise, I'm not sure. I would say that handguns or pistols are probably the highest rated that people have.
And when people say you say fear is a factor, they want to protect themselves. Recreation is a whole other ball game, although that puts guns in the house. Why would someone be denied a gun ownership?
Well, there's several reasons, and it starts out with federal law. The Federal Firearms Act, a person who's a convicted felon would be denied ownership of a handgun
And
or
a
a pistol.
convicted felon, what does that mean? Just to
Someone who's convicted of a felony.
What's a felony?
It's just a grading of a crime. In the state of Florida, you've got felonies and misdemeanors. Felonies are the greater offense, misdemeanors are the lesser offense, just as far as sentencing.
Give me just an example of a misdemeanor and of a felony.
A traffic infraction is a misdemeanor. A speeding ticket is a misdemeanor. Aggravated battery, murder, robbery, those are all felonies.
So is it a felony? Now what about embezzlement? Is that a felony?
I would imagine it is.
That is,
yes.
but it doesn't have to be a physical.
Yeah, embezzlement is more of a white collar offense. Yes.
Okay. And so, and what other reasons they can't be a felon, and what were the other reasons?
Domestic abusers, people with domestic violence in their history, can't own a firearm or can't purchase a firearm, or are not allowed to even have one in their possession. And also people with different kinds of mental health histories.
Now, let's take the domestic violence. Do they have to be convicted of domestic violence to be denied the gun, or just have a history of it?
I just believe they have to have a history of it.
Okay, and who decides that history? Is it documented?
It would be a documented history, yes. Okay. It would be someone, and I take that back, it would be a misdemeanor. That would be a misdemeanor offense for the domestic violence. So someone's convicted of a misdemeanor domestic violence offense would be prohibited from that.
Okay. And so we've got domestic violence and then mental health problems.
Yes.
And again, where is that, who makes the decision there, whether it's a mental health problem or just someone who's upset?
It would be the courts. All of these issues would come from the courts of whatever jurisdiction a person would be in or from.
Is there a way for a person who witnesses some mental health problems or abuse to report these things and get them on the record without going to court?
You mean?
I mean, if I saw someone who was really, and I know them, and they were really had major mental health issues.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, your best resolve for that would be to contact your local law enforcement agency. Let them transport that person to a facility to have an evaluation done at that point. But that would be the best way to do that.
So it all goes through the courts. Now, for someone who is buying a gun on the internet, is there do they look into the history?
Yeah, if you purchase a firearm through the internet, the firearm can't be sent to you directly. It's got to be sent to a license holder, a federal firearms license holder, a gun store, someone that just has a federal firearms license through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms from the federal government. So once you purchase that, it's got to be sent to that FFL or that firearms license holder. Then you've got to go to that person's business, fill out a form just like you were buying it from a gun store. They've got to do a background check right there on you, and then you can get your gun.
So then people who say, oh, you can just go to the internet and get any old gun and whatever you want and you don't have to say it, that is not true.
That's not true, no.
Now, I don't know. I'm not. I've never purchased a gun, and I'm not going to. If these dealers who do sell guns, you see them. I get emails on them. They're also at the flea markets. These people are also licensed and before they can sell a gun?
Yeah, now the only gun that you have to really worry about is a handgun or a pistol. Rifles and shotguns are not prohibited. You can purchase them, really without a background check. You can purchase a shotgun and rifle.
Now, for someone who doesn't know anything, me, a rifle is used for what? For hunting?
Predominantly for hunting, but there's all kind of different rifles. It's just referred to as a long gun.
And those are not easy to hide or to carry around in your pocket.
Yes.
So that there are, the handguns are the ones, which guns are you most concerned about people having?
I'm concerned about all guns with people having.
Okay, and what they're going to do with it.
Correct.
Now, you say you're concerned about all guns. Who do you break down to it when we talk about families, because this is a family organization? Who is responsible for keeping our children safe? Who's the one place to go, or is it a whole community?
Well, everything's a community, Myra, but I think first and foremost, like everything else, it starts at home. It starts with the parents. I think the parents' job is to let their children know. If there are guns in the house, a good friend of mine always teaches, when we teach a class together, he talks about his father when he was young taking his pistol out and unloading it and letting him handle the pistol when he was just a young child, and told him that don't ever touch it again or you're going to get in trouble. So his father took that initiative at a very young age. I think that it's a parent's responsibility. I think that they need to educate their children that there are guns in the house, what they can do, and it's important to let the children know that this firearm is not like the video games that they play, where there's no repercussion from the damage or destruction that the games cause, that they can't just press reset and start over again, that these are life-changing, lasting injuries that come from these guns.
So that, and we always say with anything, parents are the first teachers.
Sure.
So whatever it is that you say, that's where it starts. In the second half of the show, we're going to go into it a little more deeply and look into what everyone can do, and also give information on the parents. And if, look, going back, because this part we wanted to look at the laws and what can do it. If someone is thinking of buying a gun, what process should they use?
Well, first off is to find a reputable gun dealer. There's a lot of gun dealers out there, a lot of people that sell guns out of their garages or out of their back rooms with a firearms license. It's just important to find a reputable gun dealer, someone that's not going to take you for granted. Someone like you would walk into a dealer to buy a gun. They may try and sell you a $1,500, a $2,000 pistol that you have no business in owning, because you probably would never be able to handle it, just so they can make the money. So you just have to buyer beware, like everything else.
What about buying from a neighbor?
That's fine. If you buy from a neighbor, it's a gun that you want to purchase. In the state of Florida, you can do that. We can buy person to person. You don't have to go through a dealership. A lot of the deals at these gun shows are done in the parking lot. People have a gun for sale. They may walk around with a sign and say, I have such and such a gun for sale, and you meet in the parking lot.
It's like a football ticket.
Just like it's not quite scalping, but it's just like a football ticket, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, in other words, what you're saying is, if you're going to purchase a gun, be careful just as you're purchasing anything else. Just
do your homework.
Don't grab.
Do your homework.
Okay,
yeah.
And we'll talk about the homework in the second half of the show. So don't leave now. Be with us when we learn how you can keep yourself and your children safe. We'll be back.
The Naples Alliance for Children program will return.
Are you concerned about your child and don't know where to turn? Naples Alliance for Children offers information and free referral services for Collier County children and families. Are you concerned about your child's progress in school, your child's behavior, physical growth, social and emotional development? Are you concerned about intergenerational issues? Contact Naples Alliance for Children, www.napleschild.org, or call 239-649-5260.
It's story time. When you hear these words, it's time to have a favorite story read to you right here on TV. Story Time is a daily read-aloud show for pre-kindergarten through 5th grade students. The most important 20 minutes of the day is the time parents spend reading to their children. When you can't read, Story Time will, for you. Boys and girls, mom and dad too, join us for Story Time, the read-aloud show found only on the Education Channel, Cable 99.
Now back to the Naples Alliance for Children TV show.
Welcome back as Naples Alliance for Children presents Gun Safety for Our Children and Their Families. And I want to welcome back Jim Dillman, who is from the Collier County Sheriff's Office and the FBI Task Force, who is an expert on guns and their use and also the safety. And this segment, we want to talk about safety because that is the only way we're going to maybe make a dent and try and protect our most vulnerable population.
I agree.
Now, let's just start with guns in the house. Mm-hmm. Not just in their house, because kids go to other people's houses. You can have things done in your house, but if they go to a neighbor's house, it could be a little different.
That's correct. It's up to the gun owner, the person responsible for their home, to make sure that the gun is secured. And by secured, it needs to be somewhere where a child can't get it. It needs to be secured in a locked box. It needs to be secured somewhere.
And I know we didn't talk about this before, but it always comes up. You have children playing at other family homes. Mm-hmm. Would it be appropriate for the parents of the child who's going to visit to ask that family, do you have guns in the house?
Oh, sure.
And how they're handling it.
Definitely.
So this maybe would be a step that in your own home. But let's go into the home of a gun owner.
Okay.
You mentioned keeping the guns locked. What if a person has a gun because they're very fearful of someone coming into their home?
That's a great question. There's nothing wrong with having a gun within easy distance or easy reach of your bedroom or wherever you are, but when that child is in there, you need to put that gun away. You need to have a trigger lock, some sort of a lock in a lock box. There's products out there on the market right now that work off of your fingerprint. You put the gun in there, all you do is reach in, put your hand on top of it, it recognizes your fingerprint, and the pops open.
Oh, wow. That's like an iPhone. Okay.
It's perfect, yes.
That is, now, is that costly to have that?
Not that much. They're less than a couple $100s, I believe. So it's not that much.
Oh.
And there's no price on safety for our kids.
No. So that would be the ultimate in safety.
Sure.
That if you buy a gun, then where do you take this gun, or who does that fingerprinting?
It's just an aftermarket, or it's just you can Google it. You can look on the internet, ask your gun dealer. There's a lot of different gun safes or gun boxes out there. There's some where you have to push a 3 or 4 button code. Mm-hmm. You know, that could be very difficult if you need to get that gun out in the middle of the night. So. It's just easy to use the biometrics where you just put your fingerprints in there, and I think it's just done whenever you purchase it.
Wow.
There's a whole setup to it.
Okay, that I really like, because I've talked to people who have guns and they don't like to keep it up on a shelf because, God forbid, what if they need it? It's not there.
Correct. Sure.
Okay, I learned something, and that's great. I hope other people did too. And so that's a good deterrent. What else, a parent who has guns in the home, what should they be teaching their children? You say parents should be teaching.
Sure. You know, they need to teach them the difference between pretend and real life. You know, I talked about that a little bit ago. They need to make them realize that firing a real handgun or firing a real weapon is a lot different than a video game that they do in pretend world, and that the consequences are devastating and life-changing. And that's a major thing that we need to teach our kids, that it's not pretend, it's real life.
At what age should they start?
You know, every kid's different. I guess I would just gauge on when they start to understand completely. I've got a 6-year-old grandson, and I've already had the talk with him. He knows that myself and his father, who's also a deputy with Collier County, we both have weapons, and he knows that he's not to ever touch them. If by chance one would be left down accidentally, he knows not to touch it. But we try and make sure that we secure them and put them where they won't be found, out of reach.
A child is curious.
Very.
They see a gun. How can you prevent them from not investigating?
Well, it's like putting a cookie in that jar and telling them not to touch it.
Right.
They're going to be climbing on top of the refrigerator to get to the cookie jar. But we just have to take the extra steps. You know, if this is the gun that you use beside your bedstand at night for someone coming into your home, when the child is around, when the child is awake, you need to secure that. You need to put it somewhere in a lock box. You need to put a trigger guard, or I'm sorry, a trigger lock in it. There's locks that go inside the trigger. You can unload it and put a cable lock through it so it can't be fired, it can't be operated. There's many ways to secure them.
And I know you mentioned before someone who they show the child the gun. Because if the child knows the gun and is able to touch it and do something, it's just like with a dog or something. The cute little puppy could be biting you, so you warn them. You say, "Hey, there's a nice dog. But you need permission to
take away that curiosity."
Yeah.
You know, I know my father was a part-time law enforcement officer when I was coming up, and you know, he did the same thing. Took me in, let me touch it, let me, you know, point it and do whatever in a safe direction when it was empty, and then that was it. Don't ever touch it again. So.
And you had 3 things that you told me to teach your children: stop, don't touch, and leave the area until an adult.
Sure. If a child would find a gun or any type of a weapon, it doesn't just have to be a gun. It could just be something that
knife.
Exactly, a knife, a razor, something that represents or resembles some sort of a destructive device, fireworks. I mean, anything. You know, stop, don't touch it, go tell an adult. And that's the main thing. You know, people that live in a nice community and they say, well, that doesn't mean that it's for us. Well, sure it does. What if somebody goes in and burglarizes your home in the middle of the night and takes your guns? And next thing you know, they hear a siren and they toss that gun away. Now that gun's in your front yard for your children to find. So it's just a matter of instilling that in your children. If you see something dangerous, stop, don't touch it, go tell an adult.
And that's with gun collectors who have the cases, they're locked, whatever. I mean, there was one case, wasn't it, when the child took guns out of the case and used it. This was some time ago. How do people secure those guns on display?
Well, first off, display guns hopefully would not be loaded. But again, you know, I'm just speaking for myself. Your display guns, you know, they should be empty. They should be very, very safe to be able to be displayed like that. But again, they're still a firearm. Somebody steals them, just a matter of getting ammunition to put in them. You know, we need to make sure that we secure our firearms. You can buy a gun safe online for not a whole lot of money. You need to get one of those, invest in a gun safe, secure your weapons, secure your ammunition.
And now, what are the main causes for firearm accidents?
Well, there's actually two. There's ignorance and carelessness. Ignorance is just a lack of knowledge. We're all ignorant of something at some point in our lives. And as a firearms instructor with the Sheriff's Office, we can deal with ignorance. We can bring people up to speed and talk to them and get them more knowledgeable about gun safety and gun handling. Carelessness, no, that's just a poor and improper mindset. And that's something that we just can't deal with. We just can't deal with carelessness, especially on a firing range. And
carelessness is what?
It's just the improper mindset, just a lack of caring. It's basically they just don't care about gun safety. They don't care where they point it. They don't care whether their finger's on the trigger. Just total carelessness for the gun safety.
How do you combat that?
We ask them to leave. If we're on the firing range for the Sheriff's Office, we ask them to leave.
Now, are those people, is there a way of keeping guns from them or not?
No, not necessarily. There's not.
Unless, probably, I'd say maybe this goes back to a mental health problem.
It's very possible. I don't know. I can't really answer that.
And now, in firearms handling, and we're getting close to the end, we still have time. Okay. What are the main rules that you'd like to tell parents and the kids? I mean, we've got teenagers, we've got young adults. What are the main rules in safe firearms handling?
Well, the main ones, treat every gun as though it's loaded. Whether or not you have just emptied that gun, you need to check it again and make sure it is completely empty. Always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. If you're on a firing range, that safe direction is downrange. If you're in your home handling your weapon, it's got to be pointed in a direction where it's not going to hit someone or something. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot the weapon. And also keep the gun unloaded until it's ready to be used. That's one of the big things.
And that means maybe double check to make sure
double check, triple check.
Yeah.
I know with law enforcement, if I take a weapon from one of the other deputies, I'm going to check it physically and visually and look in that weapon to make sure it's empty. When I hand it back to him, he's going to do the same thing.
And one thing that and we're getting close, but BB guns, are those considered guns?
BB guns are considered firearms because they do have a projectile. They're not necessarily the same grading. You can buy them at any big box store, department store. You can buy them, but you still have to consider them as a firearm and for safe handling.
So with Christmas coming up, or birthdays or whatever it is, when you buy, whether it be a BB gun or a regular gun, what is your last word to the audience?
Safety, safety, safety. I mean, we can't instill safety enough for our kids. What's the old movie? You're going to shoot your eye out. So please be careful with the BB guns also.
In other words, you stop, don't touch, and then tell an adult.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll have links at the end of the broadcast. I'm sure you would be open, or the department would be open if any people have questions.
Sure.
And otherwise, you can call Naples Alliance for Children at 649-5260 or visit our website, which will be shown at the end of the broadcast. Thank you for being with us this time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching the Naples Alliance for Children, presented by the Education Channel. If you have questions or comments for the show, please call 649-5260 or visit napleschechild.org.